Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 16 of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. called The End of the Beginning. And that's actually a pretty appropriate title because obviously this is where the show is really kicking into high gear. I was actually reading an interview a little while ago with Jed Whedon and some of the other folks who were behind the scenes saying, we know the show's kind of gone through some growing pains, but we really think things are hitting its stride right now. And, that is a fair thing. First seasons for a lot of shows are often tough. To me, it seems to always take like 3 or 4 episodes for the actors to really settle into their roles. Some shows take, about half of their first season to really work out all the bugs. I mean, heck, Star Trek The Next Generation wasn't even that good until at least season 3. I mean, yeah, season 2 had its highlights, but it also had Dr. Pulaski, and good God, did I hate her. But anyway, there are plenty of other examples out there. For example, the first season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer wasn't the greatest of the show's run, but by season 2 it had really, really shot up in quality. So I kind of agree that this show probably maybe had a little bit more growing pains than might be normal, but there are a lot of balls in the air and some very, very high expectations on this show. And another thing they said in that interview was, we knew we didn't want to go out there and basically being a superhero of the week. And people were coming to the show expecting the whole thing to be one giant Marvel movie every week. And of course, in many ways, that's not feasible. So I think people just really came into the show with the wrong sort of expectations, but also the show just took longer to find its legs than maybe other programs do. But this episode is really good stuff. This is what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should have been from the beginning. And, I really hate to go out there and compare the show to Arrow once again, but one of the nice things about Arrow is that they were always bam, with the big payoffs, with the big twists, with the big turns. You never went more than 3 or 4 episodes without something making you about crap your pants. I mean, just look at the way they did the end of the first episode of Arrow. So yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it didn't do that. Now, of course, it's a different beast coming in, bringing this movie audience in that sort of case, sort of doing a lot of one-shot episodes to really make sure people understand how things work, and then once you've got people hooked, then really bringing in the mythology elements and the serialization, having things tie into each other more. Well, that is, in terms of storytelling on television, perfectly logical. But again, a lot of eyes were on the show, and a lot of people had perhaps unrealistic expectations. And the show did have some problems delivering on said expectations. But whatever. This is a really, really good episode. So let's get right into it and start talking about some stuff. Now, one of the big things, of course, is this is the last episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before Captain America the Winter Soldier comes out on Friday. Now, I am totally looking forward to seeing this movie. I will be doing a review of it. And there are some little nods to the Captain America movie, besides the little bit at the end with Samuel L. Jackson, which is obviously footage lifted from the film. We hear the Triskelion mentioned a couple of times, and it's not the first time that this place has been mentioned on the show. Of course, Triskelion is the headquarters of the Ultimates, the Ultimate Universe's counterpart to the Avengers in the comics, and is going to be an important location in the movie. Now, one thing that I saw is we got to see Agent Sitwell again, and then he's there briefly, and then he says, well, I have to go and catch a boat. Now, him leaving made some folks on Twitter last night, on a whim, I ended up live tweeting this episode. Yeah, trying to take notes and live tweet and watch a show is quite a balancing act. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep trying to do that. I'll have to think about it a little more. But that had people saying that, oh well, he's obviously going to turn out to be the clairvoyant because he's not around. Well, tiny spoiler: Sitwell has a role in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So he was actually going off to have his appearance in that movie. So but we'll talk a little bit more about. Actually, no. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about how they did bring back all those other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and stuff. And it was really cool to see Victoria Hand again, and the other agents. Still trying to keep everybody's name straight. Garrett is the main one that I can remember because Bill Paxton and all that. And one thing that I do want to say is that I don't think that Victoria Hand is the clairvoyant. I don't think that she's going to turn out to be one of the bad guys because simply there's too many episodes left, and her being the bad guy, well, her being the true clairvoyant, that just doesn't really seem like a good way to give that sort of information away. I actually think it might turn out to be Garrett, or Garrett might be in the same boat as Michael Peterson. He got injured at one point and was unwillingly rebuilt as some sort of servant to the clairvoyant. But just the fact that they took the time to really show Garrett bonding with Skye, we get to see more of his friendship with Coulson. One of the rules of drama is if the heroes are betrayed by somebody they don't really like or they don't really care for, big whoop. It's like, oh, that person's a jerk and they betrayed us. Well, I don't really care. Well, of course I care, but I'm not. It doesn't pack an emotional punch really beyond anger. When you want your heroes to be betrayed, you want them to be betrayed by someone that they like, someone that they care about, someone that they trust. And, well, who makes more sense than that than Garrett? He's Coulson's friend. We got to see him having that bonding moment with Skye. He was, the guy that trained Ward. And he has basically shown himself to be, among the people in S.H.I.E.L.D., somebody that the agents can kind of rely on. He's on their side. So imagine what happens if it turns out that he's been working against them this whole time. That's a punch in the gut, big time, to at least Ward and Coulson. And, Skye's probably not going to take that so well either. So, let's see. Yeah, that covers everything that I had to say about those guys. Not really too much to say about the whole shipping stuff with Simmons and darn, I forgot the guy with the goatee's name. Whatever. I don't really care about the shipping stuff, as I've repeatedly said. Anyway, let me see. Since we were talking about betrayal, let's talk about good old Agent May. Now, I don't think that May is a bad guy in any way, shape, or form. I think that she's doing what she's doing because she genuinely believes she's doing the right thing, and it's either going to turn out that she's just being suckered by someone else all along, possibly the clairvoyant, or it's going to turn out that she's actually been reporting to Nick Fury himself. I'm kind of betting that it's going to turn out to be Fury. It wouldn't really surprise me if, somehow at the end of the season we get one more cameo from Samuel L. Jackson. Maybe another guest appearance by Maria Hill, because that's somebody high enough up the chain that it's realistic that May would be okay with reporting to them. And I guess now that How I Met Your Mother has wrapped, the lady who plays Maria Hill has a lot more free time in her schedule, so it's not unreasonable to think that we could be seeing her again. I never watched that show, so whatever. All I know is that people were apparently hugely disappointed by the series finale, but never watched it, don't care. So anyway, one thing that I did think is interesting, though, is that I guess it was Agent Blake who was asked, rambling on about astrology before he got his pelvis shattered by Deathlock. He says to May, "Are you a Scorpio? You seem like a Scorpio." Now, if you know your comics, and I like to think that I do, you know that. Sorry, I'm reaching over to touch my iPad so that that's where I have my notes, so it doesn't turn off. Darn power saver. You know that basically the most famous story in the comics for S.H.I.E.L.D. is a story called The Scorpio Key. And long story short, the main person behind that is a villain called Scorpio. And Scorpio is a longtime sparring partner of S.H.I.E.L.D. So bringing in Scorpio as a villain it just makes sense. I mean, it's kind of hard to say that he's Nick Fury's arch nemesis. That's sort of who exactly that is. Sort of depends on who you talk to. But most people would either probably say it's Scorpio or Baron von Strucker from Hydra. So now that could just be a red herring. Like I said, I don't think May is in any way, shape, or form a genuine bad guy. But yeah, I think that that's something we might want to keep in mind. So let's see. Let's kind of just go through the list and talk about the agents. Not a huge amount to say about what's going on with Simmons. Just obviously that the guy with the goatee is still interested in her, and apparently Fitz might not be taking that so well. Again, shipping stuff, don't care. And I kind of think that maybe they're planting the seeds for something with her being so fascinated by Skye's blood. Kind of wouldn't surprise me if Simmons were to at some point ignore Skye's wishes or Coulson's orders in what she believes is doing what's best for the greater good. Now Fitz had some cool stuff this episode. We see that he is truly an absolutely horrible liar, and I couldn't believe that May just sort of let him out of there without sort of pressing the issue a little bit more. You kind of have to wonder if maybe she wasn't thinking like he might have snuck in there to look at some dirty pictures on his phone or something. But yeah. We get to see Fitz out there breaking out a new toy. I think somebody, I'm not sure if this is their official name. I might have been on the show and I missed the name. Just trying to split my attention between my iPad and tweeting on my computer and watching the episode. Somebody on Twitter referred to them as golden retrievers, which I think is a hilarious name. But seeing as how they're little golden balls that are flying around, and Fitz is from the UK, I just prefer to think that he was inspired to create these from reading the Harry Potter books. So these aren't golden retrievers to me. They're just S.H.I.E.L.D's version of the golden snitch. Yeah, sometimes I'm really just way too geeky for my own good, aren't I? Okay, let's see. Yeah, let's talk about Ward. This episode really seemed to bring back the whole Ward Sky shipping thing, which, again, I don't do shipping, so I don't know, man. Ward, you literally put a bullet in the chest of a guy in a wheelchair. I mean, how you're a S.H.I.E.L.D. investigation? Dude, that's murder! I mean, that guy was posing no threat to you whatsoever, no threat to anybody around you. He was just talking smack, and as is pointed out, it might not even have been him saying that. You were just seeing stuff from a computer screen and assuming it was him. I mean, seriously, you literally gunned down a helpless person because he was talking smack. I mean, oh, God almighty, Ward. I mean, really, how in the name of God does he not get prosecuted for murder on this one? I do not know. Yeah. They're just going to have to blame this on some sort of lingering effects from what Lorelei did to him last time around or something. Because, seriously, man, that's just straight up homicide. And, yeah, that's all I really got to say about Ward. Of course, the big thing this episode is Skye gets to become a full-fledged S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. She's got access to the list. I think that's going to let us get a lot of more little goodies in terms of, and Easter eggs in terms of the greater universe out there. Apparently, none of the names that they mentioned on that episode on the list of people, I tried poking around on the Marvel Wiki, but I couldn't find any of those names as actual people. Although I did get an enormous kick out of the fact that apparently one of them was a student at Ball State, because that's actually where I went to college. And, of course, a lot of my friends went there as well. I know a lot of people who still live around Muncie. So just the idea of the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. running around my old campus is pretty awesome, especially seeing as how Garrett and Coulson, who were on their way to Ball State to deal with all of that. Closest that we ever had to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. showing up at the campus while I was there was a lecture I once attended a lecture by somebody who was an FBI agent, which was actually quite interesting. Anyway, so let's see. So let's move on. Sky. Again, not really a huge amount to say. There's the stuff with her and Ward. We've already talked about her having that nice moment with Garrett and how that's probably going to all end in tears. Obviously, Sky still, now that she knows more about what her deal is, she's very insistent with Simmons that she not mess around with the blood sample for understandable reasons. So, yeah, I just don't have anything else really to say about her. Now, Coulson. Well, obviously, his big thing this episode was, feeling like he'd been betrayed by May. And I love how he even points out that, Mace tells him, it's a trank gun, and Coulson quite flatly tells her, well, that's what you have, but I have real bullets in this gun. Coulson does not take people betraying him or messing with him well at all. I mean, nobody does, but May's really been the person on this team that he's leaned on. She's been his confidant. And for her to be the one that apparently betrayed him, man, what a gut punch. And the great thing about the scene is May's probably telling the truth, that she's not been working against Coulson. And you just have to look at that scene and just go, May, what reason in the name of God could you possibly have for not telling Coulson who you're working for at this point? He's got a gun pointed at you, and while he doesn't want to, if you force his hand, he really will shoot you. Which, of course, just really seems to emphasize to me that she's probably working for Fury himself. That's the one person that I can really think that would get May to still keep what's happening under wraps. I think May might be willing to basically say, screw Maria Hill. I have to be honest with Coulson in this situation. But Fury, no way would she do that for Fury. And let me see here, just looking at my notes. It was also mentioned stuff about Coulson's dad dying and how that had an enormous impact on him. Now, I think this has been brought up before, but I like that they're starting to really kind of flesh out Coulson as a character, that there's more to him than just his life as a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And from what the episode descriptions I've read coming down the line, we're going to get to see a little bit more of that in an episode down the road, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. Now, turning to good old Michael Peterson himself, Deathlock. Well, I definitely like that they've continued to upgrade his abilities. He's now got that cool cannon thing on his arm, very in keeping with the comics. And then we get to see that awesome scan of him where we see really that basically what he looks like in that creepy X-ray is very much what Deathlock looks like in the comics, or at least the classic version of the character. It was really, really well done. Although you have to wonder how a guy with as much as a face messed up as messed up as Mike's is, how is he able to go around and just not attract all kinds of attention? Somebody with really severe burns on their faces like that. Yeah, I'm just gonna ignore that. It's probably another salesman. Yeah, is not going to, like I said, is not going to attract attention. Also, I did like that they had a brief scene in Sydney there, just because I went on vacation there a couple of years ago, and jeez. Yeah. So anyway, sorry about that. Let me see here. Just looking at my notes here. Speaking of Coulson, of course, also another nice scene with him. Really emphasizing that Sky and Coulson really do have that great bond. I do like that they continue to emphasize that because, again, that's giving Coulson some more humanity, some more depth to his character, and it really shows you that the team is his family, and Sky is very much sort of really taking that sort of adoptive daughter kind of perspective, or role, I should say. Oh yeah, man. How could I forget? One of my favorite little Easter egg this episode. They mentioned Department H. If you don't know, Department H is a Canadian government agency that had a hand in giving Wolverine his adamantium and Deadpool his healing factor. And they're also, in the comics, the guys that organized the Canadian superhero group Alpha Flight. I really did not expect them to ever be mentioned on the show, just because Alpha Flight and Department H are all kind of considered X-Men territory for the most part. But apparently they're not under that banner in terms of the studio deal. Now, of course, this opens the door to maybe them bringing in some of the characters from Alpha Flight, which would certainly be really interesting. We know that they're going to have Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in there, and Alpha Flight is a group that's had quite a few mutants in it, so they're just not really allowed to call them mutants, of course. But this opens up the door for maybe seeing characters like North Star, Aurora, very popular characters. And North Star has officially been a member of the X-Men before. Walter Langwisky, well-known scientist who's also Sasquatch. And then, actually, if I were to pick anybody from Alpha Flight to kind of bring in there, I'd pick someone like Heather and James Hudson, the Guardian and Vindicator. I think they would be characters who would really, really fit in well on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe as Canadian S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, or something like that. But again, there's actually quite a few really cool characters there, so this opens up the door to again, more really interesting characters from the Marvel Universe possibly popping up down the line. And yeah, I think that covers everything that I have to say about this episode. All in all, guys, really good one. I definitely enjoyed this episode. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. And until next time, take care and have a good one.